How to wire a kitchen. Step-by-step instruction. Kitchen wiring compliant with 2020 NEC, National Electrical Code. Basic kitchen wiring installation per 2020 NEC, National Electrical Code. After watching this video and doing electrical installation work based on it, with a little DIY skills, you will be able to install wiring in accordance with the requirements of 2020 NEC, National Electrical Code, in such a room. This video is a do-it-yourself guide to help you get your electrical work done safely and professionally. Always follow all safety rules and national, state and local laws. Electricity is dangerous. Errors can result in death or serious personal injury and property damage. Always de-energize the circuit before doing any work on it. There are a few circumstances where it is necessary to work on live circuits with extreme safety precautions. If you are not comfortable with this job, hire a professional. Follow national, state, and local codes when wiring your home. NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, codes. NFPA 70 NEC, National Electrical Code. NFPA 1 Fire Code. ANSI, American Nationals Institute. ASHRAE, American Society of Heating, Refrigerating and Air Conditioning Engineers. IES, Institute of Education Sciences, Code. ANSI, ASHRAE, IES 90.1 Energy Standard for Buildings. Steps before starting wiring. Most municipalities require a permit for most types of construction. Do it right and get permission from your local building department and ask about all the requirements for the job to be done properly and safely. Ask about all required inspections. Usually, an inspection is required for rough-in wiring and a final inspection after job is done. To get permission, you need to complete an application and draw up a plan, if you don't have an architect, and submit it to the building department for a review. The electrical plan should show how the kitchen will be wired. The kitchen wiring will be shown under the following conditions: a brand new kitchen in a new home, or a new added room in an existing house, or a gutted room with the old electrical installation removed. The kitchen has door, open entrance from the other side of the kitchen, window, kitchen cabinets with countertops and kitchen appliances necessary for the functioning of the kitchen. The kitchen has typical wiring required by the NEC, National Electrical Code, Fire Code, Energy Code and other local codes. One of the medium-sized kitchens, approximately 200 square feet, previously described. It is a brand new room or completely gutted. To draw a kitchen electrical plan, you need to know the layout of the kitchen cabinets and the type of appliances installed in them. The kitchen cabinet layout will be drawn for this room. By definition, a kitchen is an area equipped with a sink and prepared for cooking and food preparation. An example kitchen will have the basic, most common arrangement of cabinets and equipment necessary for the proper functioning of the kitchen. Most standard kitchen layouts have kitchen cabinets mounted against the walls, sink located under the window, refrigerator, gas or electric range, microhood or hood over the range, dishwasher located near the sink. May have a peninsula or an island added to the standard L or U-shaped arrangement of cabinets against the walls. Recessed lighting or a combination of recessed, pendant and surface-mounted ceiling light fixtures. Examples of kitchen cabinet layouts and kitchen appliances placement will be drawn for this room. Kitchen cabinet layouts. Room measurement for kitchen cabinet layout plan. The most popular kitchen cabinet layouts. Kitchen cabinet layout 1. L-shaped layout of kitchen cabinets. Sink located under the window. Refrigerator. Gas or electric range. Microhood or hood. Dishwasher located near the sink. Kitchen cabinet layout 1A. The layout is identical to kitchen layout 1, but has an added base cabinet with a countertop on the opposite wall. Kitchen cabinet layout 2. The same kitchen cabinet layout as in example 1, plus an added peninsula. Kitchen cabinet layout 3. The same kitchen cabinet layout as in example 1, plus an added island. Kitchen cabinet layout 4. The same kitchen cabinet layout as in example 1, plus an added peninsula and island. Kitchen cabinet layout 5. The same kitchen cabinet layout as in example 1, plus an added peninsula, island, and a permanently installed base cabinet with the countertop on the opposite wall. 2020 NEC, National Electrical Code, requirements for kitchen wiring. In the kitchen, the NEC requires receptacles, switched light outlet with switch at the entrance. Description of kitchen wiring requirements in the 2020 NEC, National Electrical Code. Receptacles. General purpose receptacles placement. No more than 6 feet from any openings in the wall, doors, fireplaces, etc. The distance between the receptacles cannot be greater than 12 feet. Any wall space 2 feet wide or more requires a receptacle outlet. If the distances cannot be maintained on the walls, glass walls, railings, etc., receptacle must be installed in the floor no more than 18 inches from the wall. Countertop receptacles shall not be counted towards the code's requirement for the general placement of receptacles. General purpose receptacles cannot be located more than 5.5 foot above floor level. Countertop receptacles placement. Receptacle cannot be installed more than 2 feet from the edge of the countertop or any openings in it, range, sink, etc. The distance between the receptacles cannot be greater than 4 feet. Any countertop 12 inches or wider requires a receptacle. The receptacle does not have to be installed directly behind the range, cooktop or sink, but under certain conditions. If the distance between the back edge of the sink, range or cooktop and the wall surface is greater than 12 inches, the distance between receptacles should be measured in the same way as on a continuous wall. For a sink, range, or cooktop located in a corner, if the distance from the back edge of the sink to the corner is greater than 18 inches, the distance between receptacles should be measured in the same manner as for a continuous wall. Peninsula receptacles. At least one receptacle is required at each end of the peninsula, located no more than 2 feet from the end of the countertop. Island receptacles. At least one receptacle is required for the first 9 square feet or any portion of that countertop work surface. Each additional 18 square feet, countertop area or fraction thereof must have an additional receptacle. A countertop receptacle cannot be located more than 20 inches above the countertop and no more than 12 inches below the countertop surface. The receptacle cannot be installed below a countertop if the countertop extends more than 6 inches from the base support. Branch circuits. At least two 20 amps branch circuits for small appliances must be installed for receptacles serving countertops. Small appliance branch circuits serving countertops may also serve general-purpose receptacle outlets installed in a kitchen, dining room, pantry or similar room. Receptacles for refrigeration equipment and the receptacles for gas-fired ranges, cooktops and stoves. The number of circuits installed in the kitchen must be determined based on load calculations and must be sufficient for the load served. All special appliances such as dishwasher, microhood, in-sink garbage disposal, etc. installed in the kitchen must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. All receptacles serving countertops must be GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter, protected. All 125 volts to 250 volts receptacles installed within 6 feet of the top inside edge of the sink must be GFCI protected. All 125 volts branch circuits serving the kitchen must be AFCI, arc fault circuit interrupter, protected. At least one switch controlling lighting outlets shall be installed on the wall near the entrance to the kitchen. How to understand the above NEC 2020 requirements will be shown in the following examples. Kitchen cabinet layout 1 inserted into the room dimension and will now be converted to a kitchen view with kitchen countertops. View of the kitchen layout 1 with kitchen countertops. Now the kitchen cabinet layout 1A will be inserted into the kitchen room to show the 2020 NEC requirements for the kitchen. Kitchen cabinet layout 1A inserted into the room dimension and will now be converted to a kitchen view with kitchen countertops. View of the kitchen layout 1A with kitchen countertops. Explanation of 2020 NEC requirements for kitchens based on the kitchen layout 1 and 1A. General purpose receptacle outlets placement according to 2020 NEC for the kitchen from kitchen cabinet layout 1 and kitchen cabinet layout 1A. Distance measurement for receptacles must be made along the wall surface. The distance to and between receptacles along the wall must be measured to the center of the receptacle to meet the NEC requirement. No point measured horizontally is more than. Kitchen cabinets should be treated as an opening in the wall when placing receptacles. In the kitchen, general-purpose receptacles should be placed as follows. No more than 6 feet from any openings in the wall, doors, fireplaces, etc. The distance between the receptacles cannot be greater than 12 feet. Any wall space 2 feet wide or more requires a receptacle outlet. If the distances cannot be maintained on the walls, glass walls, railings, etc., receptacle must be installed in the floor no more than 18 inches from the wall. To meet NEC requirements, the entire receptacle outlet must be within 18 inches of the wall. Countertop receptacles shall not be counted towards the code's requirement for the general placement of receptacles. General-purpose receptacles cannot be located more than 5.5 feet above floor level. Countertop receptacle outlets placement according to 2020 NEC for the kitchen from kitchen cabinet layout 1 and 1A. Distance measurement for receptacles must be made along the wall surface. The distance to and between receptacles along the wall must be measured to the center of the receptacle to meet the NEC requirement. No point measured horizontally is more than. The countertop receptacles should be placed as follows. It cannot be installed more than 2 feet from the edge of the countertop or any openings in it, range, sink, etc. The distance between the receptacles cannot be greater than 4 feet. Any countertop 12 inches or wider requires a receptacle. The receptacle does not have to be installed directly behind the range, cooktop or sink unless the following conditions are met. The distance between the back edge of the sink, range or cooktop and the wall surface is greater than 12 inches. For a sink, range, or cooktop located in a corner, the distance from the back edge of the sink, cooktop or range to the corner is greater than 18 inches. If the distance between the back edge of the sink, range or cooktop and the wall surface is greater than 12 inches, the distance between receptacles should be measured in the same way as on a continuous wall. For a sink, range, or cooktop located in a corner, if the distance from the back edge of the sink to the corner is less than 18 inches, the distance from the edge of the sink or the edge of the appliance to the receptacle should not exceed 2 feet as shown. For a sink, range, or cooktop located in a corner, if the distance from the back edge of the sink to the corner is greater than 18 inches, the distance between receptacles should be measured in the same manner as for a continuous wall. Another receptacle installed behind the sink to meet NEC requirements. Countertop receptacles shall not be counted towards the code's requirement for the general placement of receptacles. A countertop receptacle cannot be located more than 20 inches above the countertop, and no more than 12 inches below the countertop surface. The countertop cannot extend more than 6 inches if a receptacle will be installed underneath it. Countertops receptacle outlets placement according to 2020 NEC for the kitchen from kitchen cabinet layout 2. All the kitchen wiring for the receptacles is the same as in kitchen layout 1 and 1A except for the peninsula, which will be shown in this example. At least one receptacle is required at each end of the peninsula, located no more than 2 feet from the end of the countertop. At least one receptacle is required at each end of the peninsula, located no more than 2 feet from the end of the countertop. The receptacle cannot be installed lower than 12 inches below the countertop surface. The receptacle cannot be installed below a countertop if the countertop extends more than 6 inches from the base support. The receptacle can be installed anywhere within the green striped area shown. Countertops receptacle outlets placement according to 2020 NEC for the kitchen from kitchen cabinet layout 3. All the kitchen wiring for the receptacles is the same as in kitchen layout 1 and 1A except for the island, which will be shown in this example. At least one receptacle is required for the first 9 square feet or any portion of that countertop work surface. Each additional 18 square feet countertop area or fraction thereof must have an additional receptacle. Each additional 18 square feet countertop area or fraction thereof must have an additional receptacle. For an island, at least one receptacle is required for the first 9 square feet or any portion of that countertop work surface. Each additional 18 square feet countertop area or fraction thereof must have an additional receptacle. The receptacle cannot be installed lower than 12 inches below the countertop surface. The receptacle cannot be installed below a countertop if the countertop extends more than 6 inches from the base support. Receptacle acceptable here. Each additional 18 square feet requires a receptacle, and any additional fraction of 18 square feet requires another receptacle. At least one switch controlling lighting outlets shall be installed on the wall near the entrance to the kitchen. All kitchen receptacles serving countertops must be GFCI protected. All 125 volts to 250 volts receptacles installed within 6 feet of the top inside edge of the sink must be GFCI protected. All 125 volts to 250 volts receptacles installed within 6 feet of the top inside edge of the sink must be GFCI protected. Branch circuit requirements for kitchens. How to understand branch circuit requirements for small appliances. 220A small appliance branch circuits may, according to the 2020 National Electrical Code, supply power to all countertop receptacle outlets and general-purpose receptacle outlets in kitchen, dining room, pantry, breakfast room and similar areas. At least one countertop receptacle outlet must be powered by each of the 2 branch circuits for small appliances. These 2 branch circuits for small appliances can also be used to power a receptacle for refrigeration equipment and a receptacle for powering gas-fired ranges, cooktops and stoves. 2 small appliance branch circuits cannot serve more than one kitchen. This is the minimum requirement for branch circuits that must be installed in the kitchen. Practically, the number of circuits required for these rooms should be calculated, according to 2020 NEC, based on the load to be served. Additionally, the 2020 NEC does not specify or limit the number of receptacles installed on an electrical circuit, so the number of receptacles installed on one branch circuit can be virtually unlimited. In practice, the number of receptacles installed on each electrical circuit should depend on the load to be served by that branch circuit. 20 amps branch circuits for small appliances must be AFCI protected. Examples of wiring the receptacles serving kitchen countertops using the 220 amps small appliance branch circuits that are required in the kitchen by the National Electrical Code. In the kitchen, at least 220 amps branch circuits for small appliances must be installed for receptacles serving countertops. The number of receptacle outlets on each circuit can be in any configuration. Circuit 1, 2 receptacles. Circuit 2, 4 receptacles. Circuit 1, 4 receptacles. Circuit 2, 2 receptacles. Circuit 1, 5 receptacles. Circuit 2, 1 receptacle. Circuit 1, 3 receptacles. Circuit 2, 3 receptacles. Or in any other combination. Small appliance branch circuits serving countertops may also serve general-purpose receptacle outlets installed in a kitchen, dining room, pantry or similar room. Example, receptacles can be in any combination, provided that each 20 amps circuit supplies at least one receptacle on the countertop. The number of general-purpose receptacle outlets installed on each small appliance branch circuit is not specified by National Electrical Code. Branch circuits for small appliances may power refrigeration equipment and gas-fired ranges, cooktops and ovens. Branch circuits for small appliances can also serve peninsula and island receptacle outlets. The number of circuits installed in the kitchen must be determined based on load calculations and must be sufficient for the load served. All 125 volts branch circuits serving the kitchen must be AFCI protected. All kitchen appliances such as refrigerator, dishwasher, microhood, cooking units, in-sink garbage disposal, etc., installed in the kitchen must be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. 2020 National Electrical Code requirements for permanently installed kitchen appliances. All kitchen appliances must be installed in accordance with their instructions and NEC requirements. Refrigerator. As per 2020 NEC, refrigeration equipment can be installed on one of the 20 amps branch circuits required for small appliances. If your refrigerator requires a dedicated circuit according to the installation instructions, you must install an additional 15 or 20 amp circuit to power this appliance. The dedicated circuit requires AFCI protection. The receptacle may be installed behind the refrigerator if it is not a GFCI, ground fault, or AFCI, arc fault type, which must be installed in an readily accessible location according to the NEC, not behind refrigerator. Gas range. A gas range needs a receptacle to power the igniter and its electronics. As per 2020 NEC, a receptacle for powering gas ranges can be installed on one of the 20 amps branch circuits required for small appliances. This receptacle can also be connected to any 15 or 20 amps lighting circuit. The receptacle may be installed behind the gas range if it is not a GFCI, ground fault, or AFCI, arc fault type, which must be installed in an readily accessible location, not behind the range, according to the NEC. If a gas range receptacle is installed closer than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, it must be protected by a GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter. Electric range. Most electric ranges require a 50 amps, 240 volts circuit. Some may be powered by a 40 amps, 240 volts circuit. Read the range label. Conductors, cable, size shall be calculated in accordance with the NEC requirements for continuous load and any other factors. The electrical circuit powering the range must be 4-wire, copper. Electric ranges are usually connected by a cord and plug unless the manufacturer allows direct wiring of the range. The range receptacle can be installed behind or next to the range, but no more than 6 feet from the range. The receptacle for the range shall not be rated less than the circuit. If the receptacle is installed behind the range and cannot be accessed through the range drawer, or if the range is hardwired, a lockable device must be installed on the circuit breaker. If a range receptacle is installed closer than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, it must be protected by a GFCI, ground fault circuit interrupter. The electric range power cord for new installations must be 4-wire 50 amps. For new installations, a 3-wire power cord and grounding through the neutral wire are not allowed. Microhood. The microhood mounted above the range is connected with a cable and plug. The receptacle for the microhood must be accessible, and is usually located in the cabinet above the microhood. The receptacle must be powered by a dedicated AFCI-protected 20 amps circuit. It should be a single 20 amps receptacle so that this dedicated circuit can only be used to power the microhood, only one appliance. When the receptacle is closer than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, it must be GFCI protected. Hood. Most hoods can be connected with a cord and plug or hardwired. Check the hood instruction and label to see if a dedicated 15 or 20 amp circuit is required. If no dedicated circuit is required, it can also be powered from any lighting circuit. Many hoods can be converted from a cord and plug connection to a hardwired connection, or from a hardwired connection to a cord and plug connection. If the hood is connected with a cord and plug, the cord must be 18 inches to 4 feet long and have a grounding wire. The cord must be protected from physical damage. The receptacle, if installed, must be accessible. When the receptacle is closer than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, it must be GFCI protected. If the hood is hardwired, a padlockable device must be installed on the circuit breaker powering this hood. Dishwasher. Most dishwashers can be connected with a cord and plug or hardwired. Check instruction. The dishwasher requires a dedicated AFCI protected 15 or 20 amp circuit. Read the dishwasher label. Practically the best option is to install a dedicated 20 amp circuit in case the dishwasher needs to be replaced and the new dishwasher would require a 20 amp circuit. The dishwasher must be GFCI protected. The dishwasher receptacle must be accessible and located in the space adjacent to the space occupied by the dishwasher, usually under the sink, not behind the dishwasher. When the receptacle is closer than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, it must be GFCI protected. If the dishwasher is connected with a cord and plug, the cord length must be between 3 and 6.5 feet. The cord must have an equipment grounding conductor, must be protected from physical damage, and when passing through openings must be protected by a bushing or other means. If the dishwasher is hardwired, a padlockable device must be installed on the circuit breaker powering the dishwasher. In-sink waste disposer. Unless it is a batch feed type waste disposer, you will need a switch, air or standard, to control it. The in-sink waste disposer should be powered by a dedicated 15 or 20 amps circuit, as required by most manufacturers. The best solution for powering any residential in-sink waste disposer is to install a dedicated 20 amp circuit. Read the instruction whether the disposer can be hardwired or with a cord and plug, or maybe both methods are acceptable. It is usually connected with a cord and plug. When connected by cord and plug, the cord must be identified as suitable, be 18 to 36 inches in length, have an equipment grounding conductor, unless otherwise marked on the device, and be protected from physical damage. The receptacle must be accessible, and is usually located under the sink. If the receptacle is less than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, it must be protected by a GFCI. If the disposer is hardwired, a padlockable device should be installed on the circuit breaker supplying power to the disposer. The in-sink waste disposer circuit must be AFCI protected. Trash compactors. Trash compactors are rarely used in the kitchens. Trash compactor are usually installed, built in, anywhere under the countertop, much like a dishwasher. They usually require a dedicated 15 or 20 amp circuit. The trash compactor can be hardwired or cord and plug connected. If connected with a cord and plug, the power cord must be no shorter than 3 feet and no longer than 4 feet. The receptacle may be located behind the trash compactor or in a space adjacent to the compactor. If the receptacle is less than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, it must be protected by a GFCI. If the trash compactor is hardwired, a padlockable device should be installed on the circuit breaker supplying power to the trash compactor. The trash compactor circuit must be AFCI protected. Electric wall ovens and electric ovens mounted under the cooktop. These types of ovens are usually hardwired, but can be connected with a cord and plug if permitted in the manufacturer's installation instructions. The oven mounted under the cooktop must be suitable for this type of installation under the certain cooktops. Read the instructions and label of the appliance to select the appropriate power circuit size. The power supply circuit for this type appliance must be 4-wire, 240 volts, 20 to 50 amps. The junction box connecting the oven wiring to the circuit wiring may be located in or adjacent to the space occupied by the oven. If the oven is hardwired, the padlockable device must be installed on a 2-pole circuit breaker. Electric cooktops. Electric cooktop are usually hardwired, but can be connected with a cord and plug if permitted in the manufacturer's installation instructions. The cooktop mounted above the oven must be suitable for this type of installation. Read the instructions and label of the appliance to select the appropriate power circuit size. The power supply circuit for this type appliance must be 3 or 4-wire, 240 volts, 20 to 50 amp. Not all electric cooktops require a neutral wire. Check instruction. The junction box connecting the cooktop wiring to the circuit wiring may be located in the cooktop space or in a space adjacent to it. If the cooktop is hardwired, the padlockable device must be installed on a 2-pole circuit breaker. Gas-fired ovens. Gas-fired oven require an outlet to power the igniter and electronics. The 15 or 20 amp receptacle may be placed in the space occupied by the oven or in the space adjacent to it. The receptacle for a gas-fired oven can be powered from one of 2 branch circuits for small appliances. If the receptacle is located less than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, the receptacle must be GFCI protected. If the receptacle is a GFCI or AFCI type, it must be readily accessible, so it shall only be installed in a space adjacent to the appliance. If the oven is installed under the electric or gas cooktop, it must be listed for such use. Gas-fired cooktops. Gas-fired cooktop require an outlet to power the igniter and electronics. The 15 or 20 amp receptacle may be placed in the space occupied by the cooktop or in the space adjacent to it. The receptacle for a gas-fired cooktop can be powered from one of 2 branch circuits for small appliances. If the receptacle is located less than 6 feet from the edge of the sink, the receptacle must be GFCI protected. If the receptacle is a GFCI or AFCI type, it must be readily accessible, so it shall only be installed in a space adjacent to the appliance. If the cooktop is installed above the electric or gas oven, it must be listed for such use. The above explains all the requirements for installing kitchen wiring and wiring major kitchen appliances. Understanding the 2020 National Electrical Code requirements for kitchen wiring will help you wire this room safely and professionally. Drawing kitchen electrical plan. One of the most common kitchen layouts will be shown as an example for basic kitchen wiring. To apply for a permit for electrical installation in a kitchen, an electrical installation plan must be provided in the kitchen sketch. To draw an electrical plan, you need to know the commonly used symbols on electrical plans and the NEC requirements. Symbols commonly used on electrical plans that need to be known to draw a plan. Receptacle. Dedicated receptacle. GFCI receptacle. Single pole switch. Three-way switch. Recessed light outlet. Pendant light outlet. Surface mount light outlet. The electrical plan will be drawn for this example kitchen. The cabinet layout is converted into the countertop view with appliance location shown. The electrical plan for this kitchen has been prepared in accordance with 2020 NEC requirements and can be submitted to the building authority for approval. Once you have obtained the electrical permit, you can start wiring the kitchen. Measurement of the room and marking of receptacles, switches and the location of lighting outlets. Mark on the walls, wall plates or floor width of the kitchen cabinets from the cabinet layout drawn for this kitchen starting from the corner. 36 inches plus 1/2 inch drywall for B36-36 cabinet. Next 12 inches for B12 cabinet. And the next one. Until all the widths of the cabinets are marked on the wall. End of kitchen cabinets. Mark in the same way other wall. The kitchen cabinet end is known so the location for general purpose receptacles can be marked. Marking the location of the general purpose receptacle outlets. Measure the room. And pre-mark the location of the receptacle outlets, according to the previously described code requirements. If necessary, adjust the distance of the receptacle outlets, install more outlets, but do not increase the distances described in the codebook. Measure the distance from the floor, and mark the bottom of the box on the previously pre-marked stud for placing the receptacle outlet junction box. 14 inches is the most common distance from the floor to the bottom of the receptacle outlet box. (14 inches from the floor to the bottom of the receptacle outlet box. Repeat marking for other receptacle outlet boxes. For countertop receptacles, the distance from the end or any opening therein to the receptacle cannot be greater than 2 feet. The distance between receptacles cannot be greater than 4 feet. For countertop receptacles, the junction box height is 44 inches from the floor to the bottom of the junction box, similar to switch junction boxes. Measure the distance from the floor, and mark the bottom of the box on the previously pre-marked stud for placing the receptacle junction box. Repeat this for all other countertop receptacles and switches. Mark the switches' locations. Standard switch height is 44 inches from the floor to the bottom of the junction box. Measure the distance from the floor, and mark the bottom of the box on the previously pre-marked stud for placing the switch junction box. 44 inches from the floor to the bottom of the switch outlet box. Measure and mark the location of the lighting fixtures on the ceiling. Pendant light fixture, center of a small table. Surface-mounted light fixture above the center of the sink. Recessed light fixtures in selected locations. Installation of junction boxes. There are many different junction boxes available to suit the installations described above. 4 types of junction boxes were selected that are best suited for the kitchen rough-in wiring. A non-metallic, nailed Carlin 22.5 cubic inches junction box was selected for the receptacles and switches. For the light outlet junction box above the sink, a metal 4-inch octagonal junction box with an adjustable hanger was selected. A PVC commercial electric 12 cubic inches junction box rated to support fans was selected as the light outlet junction box above the table. For 2 switches, a Carlin 34.6 cubic inches non-metallic nailed 2-gang junction box was selected. 1-gang Carlin 22.5 cubic inches junction box. A single-gang Carlin 22.5 cubic inches or similar junction box can be used as the junction box for receptacle and switch. Front view of a single-gang Carlin junction box. Side view of a single-gang Carlin junction box. Details of non-metallic, nail-on single-gang junction box. This box requires a wall depth of at least 3 inches. The cable entering this Carlin junction box must be attached to a stud within 12 inches of the box. Box size, volume in cubic inches 22.5 cubic inches. The maximum number and size of wires that can fit in a box. Making it easy to calculate, each insulated wire counts as 1. 4 uninsulated bare wires as 1 and each additional as 1/4. Each device, receptacle, switch, etc. as 2. Example, the number 11/14 on the box indicates that the junction box holds 11 of 14 AWG, American wire gauge, size wires. Example of counting for 3 cables 14. 2 nm, Romex. 3 white and 3 black wires 3 plus 3 equals 6. 3 bare ground wires as 1. 1 receptacle, switch, etc. to be installed as 2. Total equals 9. This means the box can fit 1 more 14. 2 nm cable to get maximum allowable capacity. This means that the box holds a total of 4 14, 2 nm cables and 1 device. Knockouts for the cable entry in the junction box. Nails for mounting the junction box. 1/2 inch mark for standard house walls sheetrock thickness, 1/2 inch thick sheetrock. Markings for different wall finish thicknesses. Mounting holes for electrical devices. To install a nailed junction box. Hold the junction box on the side of the stud and align the bottom of the box with a marking sign on the stud. While holding the junction box at side of the stud, drive the nails of the box into the stud. When attaching the junction box to the stud, the marking on the box for 1/2 inch sheetrock must evenly touch the stud. After marking the location for the receptacle, attach the receptacle junction box to the stud. Install 1-gang junction boxes for countertop receptacles and single switches as well. Receptacle or switch junction box installed. If necessary, add a piece of wood to move the junction box further away from any wall element, door trim, wall corner, etc., to make enough space for wall plate installation. Vapor-tight junction boxes for external walls may be required to meet energy code requirements. 2-gang Carlin 34.6 cubic inches junction box. Details of non-metallic, nail-on 2-gang junction box. Box size, volume in cubic inches 34.6 cubic inches. The maximum number and size of wires that can fit in a junction box, making it easy to calculate. Each insulated wire counts as 1. 4 uninsulated bare wires as 1 and each additional as 1/4. Each device, receptacle, switch, etc. as 2. Junction box clamps, push-in, 8 total. Junction box rails for inserting a divider plate between junction box gangs. 1/2 inch mark for standard house walls sheetrock thickness, 1/2 inch thick sheetrock. Nails for mounting the junction box. The nails can be switched to a different driving angle. Mounting holes for electrical devices. Install the junction box for 2 switches to the stud. Two-gang switch junction box installed. Commercial electric 12 cubic inches a non-metallic junction box, acceptable for fan installation. Commercial electric 12 cubic inches a non-metallic junction box acceptable for fan installation. Acceptable for fan support. Screw that secures the junction box to the joist. Screws securing the fan or lighting fixture, direct mounting to the joist. Button-type cable connector. Holes in the junction box for screws mounting the light fixture. Cable knockouts. Junction box cover. Install the light outlet junction box for the pendant light fixture above the table. A junction box suitable for the fan support must be installed in all locations where a paddle fan may be installed in accordance with Article 314.27 (c) of the 2020 NEC. Also, this junction box can support a heavy light fixture of the weight for which the junction box is listed. A ceiling light outlet junction box has been installed. 4 inches octagonal metal junction box. 4 inches octagonal metal junction box is used for the installation of ceiling or wall lighting fixture. Junction box capacity 15.5 cubic inches. Number of cables allowed in the junction box must be calculated in accordance with Article 314.16 2020 NEC. Ground screw hole with raised ground screw area. 1/2 inch, or 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch, knockouts, 8 total. Holes in the junction box for mounting it to the surface, 5 total. Junction box ears with screws for attaching the lighting fixture to the junction box. Adjustable junction box hanger. Adjustable metal junction box hanger. The adjustable junction box hanger is rated to support weight of 50 pounds on 16 inches span center. The bar clamp installs in the center 1/2 inch knockout at the bottom of the junction box. The bar hanger adjusts from 14.5 inch to 22.5 inch. Bar hanger clamp. Holes in the bar hanger support straps for the screws that attach the bar hanger to the studs. Bar hanger lock tab. Junction box installed to the adjustable bar hanger. Install the light outlet junction box for the surface mount light fixture above the sink. An example video showing the assembly of a 4 inches octagonal metal box with an adjustable rod hanger and the installation of this kit to the studs. Open the center knockout in the octagonal junction box. Remove the screw from the bar hanger slider. Place the junction box on the slider and loosely screw in the previously removed screw. Install the bar hanger with junction box between the studs. Adjust the junction box on the slider in the desired location and tighten the slider screw. Install the grounding screw. Above sink light outlet junction box has been installed. Recessed light housing installation. Recessed light fixtures. Recessed light housing for new construction. Recessed light housing for remodel installation. Canless recessed light fixture. Recessed lighting housing, new construction, will be installed during rough-in wiring. When installing a recessed lighting remodel housing, old work, or installing a canless recessed lighting fixture, the ceiling must be pre-wired during rough-in wiring. Install recessed light housings. To better show the installed electrical junction boxes, this electrical wiring plan will be converted to an electrical box layout view. Kitchen plan after conversion from an electrical plan to a view of the arrangement of electrical junction boxes. Description of the junction boxes. R. Receptacle. S. Switch. L. Light. The junction boxes for the microhood and the dishwasher receptacle will be installed after the kitchen cabinets are installed. All junction boxes and lighting fixture housings have been installed, except for the microhood and dishwasher. Cable installation. Drilling holes. Holes for routing cables through wall studs can be drilled at any horizontal stud height, but are typically located approximately 30 inches to 40 inches above the floor in each stud along the wall if needed. Side view, wider, of 2 by 4 inches stud and details of drilled holes. The drilled hole should be no larger than 7/8 inch. Usual drill bit size can be smaller but not less than ½ inch. The edge of the hole should be no closer than 1¼ inch from the edge of the stud. Drilled hole. 1/16 inch thick steel nail plate. If the edge of the hole is less than 1¼ inch from the edge of the stud, secure the hole with a 1/16 inch thick steel nail plate of the appropriate length. For holes greater than 7/8 inch in diameter, a steel plate must be used on both sides of the stud. Cable protection with a nail plate. If necessary, multiple holes can be drilled according to hole drilling rules. In wider studs, the hole may be larger. Any stud can be drilled or bored no more than 60% of the width of the stud. The hole is no closer than 5/8 inch from the edge of the stud, and the hole is not in the same section as a notch or cut. The cable must be protected by a steel plate if the edge of the hole is less than 1¼ inch from the edge of the stud. Stud in any external or load-bearing wall may be notched, but not deeper than 25% of the width of the stud. The cutout with the cable must be protected with a steel plate. The cutout must not be in the same place where the hole is drilled. For the top and bottom plates, the same drilling rules apply as for studs. The top plate of the stud wall. Holes may be drilled in joists no larger than 1/3 of joist width, and at least 2 inches from the top and bottom of the joist to the edge of the hole. For multiple holes, the distance between the holes must be 2 times the diameter of the larger hole. The hole can be drilled at least 1 inch from the end of the joists to the edge of the hole. Holes, openings in joists, beams. When routing cables through metal studs, a snap-in sleeve must be used in each stud. Installing cables. All cables must be installed and supported in a neat and professional manner so that the cable is not damaged during normal use of the building. Cables installed and run over beams, through studs and in horizontal chases are usually naturally supported. NM, non-metallic sheathed cables, Romex cable. Non-metallic sheathed, NM Romex, cable shall be supported and secured with staples, cable ties, straps, hangers or similar hardware and installed in such a way as not to damage the cable. Approved supports, listed, for NM cable: staples, cable stackers, cable ties, etc. Requirements for installation and support: NM non-metallic sheathed cable, Romex cable. The distance between the supports shall not exceed 4.5 feet. The support from the enclosure's outlet box shall not exceed 12 inches. After the cable enters the junction box, the cable must be approximately 12 to 18 inches long after entering the junction box for splicing, cable connection. If staples are used as cable supports, the staples must be approved to support NM cables. The NM cable must be stapled on a flat surface, not on the edge. The NM cable must be stapled on a flat surface, not on the edge. Do not drive the staples too hard into the cables. Staples should be drive tight enough to hold the cable in place, but not so tight as to pinch and damage the cable. Driving the staple too hard can damage the cable. Can damage the cable. Do not drive the staple over the staple during the stapling another cable in same place. The staple must contact the cable with its flat surface, not a sharp edge. The cable must not be stapled closer than 1/4 inch from the edge of the stud. No more than 2 cables can be stapled with the same staple. Do not damage the cable when removing the staple. If it is not possible to staple the cable, too narrow space, a cable tie or other way of supporting the cable should be used. The low-voltage cable must not occupy the same cable hole as the power cable, it must be run in a separate drilled hole. Cable stackers. The edge of the cable stapled in the center of the 2 by 4 inches stud must be 1/4 inch from the edge of the stud. Otherwise use hangers, stackers, etc. to support this cable. If there are more than 2 cables running along a 2 by 4 inches stud, use cable stackers, etc. to keep the cables away from the stud. If the junction box does not have cable clamps or it is not possible to mount a cable clamp to the junction box, and the cable enters freely into the box knockout, the cable must be secured to the structure with staples or other means. In this case, the cable stacker does not support the cable at the entrance to the junction box to meet NEC, National Electrical Code, requirements. 7/8 hole for cable. Up to 3, 12 or 14 gauge, NM cables per drilled 7/8 inch hole in the 2 by 4 inch stud. Steel cable protection plate, nail plate. Use a nail plate to protect the cable if necessary. Installation of wiring in the kitchen based on the drawn plan. Cable routing. For kitchen electrical wiring. 14, 2, 12, 2, and 12. 3nm non-metallic sheathed Romex cable will be used. When installing cables, do not mix wire sizes in one circuit. According to the 2020 NEC, 14-gauge cable shall be protected by a 15-amp circuit breaker and 12-gauge cable shall be protected by a 20-amp circuit breaker unless the exceptions described in the code, for example, motor loads, are met. The 14, 2, and 12, 2nm cable contains the following wires: bare, ground wire; white, neutral wire; black, hot wire. The 14, 3nm cable contains the following wires: bare, ground wire; white, neutral wire; black, hot wire; red, hot wire. Cable installation for this kitchen. How many branch circuits? To meet NEC requirements and follow good electrical practices for house wiring, this kitchen requires 5 20-amp circuits and 1 15-amp circuit. 20-amp circuits will serve countertop receptacle, refrigerator with general-purpose receptacles, dishwasher and microhood. The 15-amp circuit will power all the lighting in the kitchen. The cables between the junction boxes on each circuit can be routed in any combination, but this wiring example will show the simplest cable routing method. Installation of branch circuits for the kitchen countertop. The number of receptacles serving the countertop will be divided into 2 circuits. Route all home run circuits cables from the panel board, power source location to the first junction box location. When installing cables, label the cables or cable ends so that they can be easily identified when connecting. The 3 receptacles on the sink side will be powered by one circuit, and the next 3 receptacles on the stove side will be powered by the other circuit. The receptacle for the gas range will also be powered from the same circuit. Install the first branch circuit for the countertop receptacles on the sink side using 12, 2nm cable. The cable feeder from the panel board can be routed to one of the 3 installed junction boxes. The receptacle to the left of the sink was selected as the first receptacle to which the branch circuit cable, home run, from the panel board would be run. Drill cable holes where needed and run 12, 2nm cable from the panel board to the first junction box of the first of 2 small appliance branch circuits. Route all home run circuits cables from the panel board, power source location to the first junction box location. When installing cables, label the cables or cable ends so that they can be easily identified when connecting. Run the same type of cable from the first junction box to the next, and then to the last. View of the wall with installed cables and junction boxes. Cables can be inserted into the junction box from the top, bottom, or top and bottom. First junction box. Cable from the panel board. Cable to the second junction box. Cables stapled to a stud no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. After entering the junction box, the cables must be long enough to be spliced, connected inside the box. The cable should be 12 to 18 inches long from the entrance to the junction box. Second junction box. Cable from the first junction box. Cable to the third junction box. Cables stapled to a stud no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. Third junction box. Cable from the second junction box. Cable stapled to a stud no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. Install the second branch circuit for the countertop receptacles on the gas range side using 2 nm cable. The cable feeder from the panel board can be routed to one of the 4 installed junction boxes. The receptacle to the left of the range was selected as the first receptacle to which the branch circuit cable, home run, from the panel board would be run. Run 2 nm cable from the panel board to the first junction box of the second small appliance branch circuits. Run the same type of cable from the first junction box to the next receptacle junction box, which is for the receptacle that will power the gas cooktop, and to the next, and then to the last junction box of this branch circuit. View of the wall with installed cables and junction boxes. The cables are inserted into the junction boxes in the same way as in the previously described branch circuit 1 of the kitchen countertop. Install a 20 amps branch circuit for the refrigerator and general purpose receptacle. The cable feeder from the panel board can be routed to one of the 5 installed junction boxes. The refrigerator receptacle was selected as the first receptacle to which the branch circuit cable, home run, from the panel board would be run. Run 2 nm cable from the panel board to the refrigerator receptacle junction box. Run the cable from the refrigerator receptacle junction box to one of the general purpose receptacle junction boxes, and to the next, and next, and then to the last junction box of this branch circuit. The cables are inserted into the junction boxes in the same way as in the previously described circuits. Install a 20 amps branch circuit for the microhood. The cable from the panel board is led to the place where the microhood is located and left in the expected place for the microhood receptacle, which receptacle, after installing the kitchen cabinet above the microhood, will be installed inside this kitchen cabinet. Install 2 nm cable from the panel board to the microhood location. The cable for the microhood receptacle is left in the expected receptacle location. The cable must be long enough to reach the microhood receptacle junction box and allow for connection in it. Secure the cable properly to the building structure. Install a 20 amps branch circuit for the dishwasher. The cable from the panel board is run to the location where the dishwasher receptacle will be located, or the location of the dishwasher if directly wired. The dishwasher receptacle is usually located under the sink. Install 2 nm cable from the panel board to the dishwasher receptacle location. The cable for the dishwasher receptacle is left in the expected receptacle location. The cable must be long enough to reach the dishwasher receptacle junction box and allow for connection in it. All the 20 amps circuit cables that serve the kitchen are already installed, and now the wiring for the lighting will be installed. The cable can be routed to any of the 3 switch junction boxes. And you can also route the cables between the switches and light outlets in various ways. This example shows one of these ways. The 2-gang switch junction box near the door was selected to run circuit cable, home run, from the panel board. Run the 14, 2nm cable from the panel board to the 2-gang switch junction box. Install the same type of cable between the 2-gang switch junction box near the door and the switch junction box near the sink. Run 14, 3nm cable between the 2-gang switch junction box near the door and the switch junction box near the wall opening that allows entry into the kitchen to create 3-way wiring for recessed light fixtures. Install a 14, 2nm cable from the 2-gang switch junction box to the light outlet junction box above the table. Install 14, 2nm cable from the switch junction box near the sink to the light outlet above the sink. Run 14, 2nm cable between the switch junction box near the other kitchen entrance and the one of the recessed light fixture housing junction box. Run the cable from one recessed light fixture to the next until all light fixtures have cable. You can run the cable any other way between the light fixtures. Insert the cables of the lighting circuit into the junction boxes. 2-gang switch junction box. 4 cables inserted into the 2-gang junction box. Cable to the light outlet above the table. 14, 3 cable to the switch junction box at second entrance to kitchen. Cable from the panel board. Cable to the switch near the sink. Cable secured to a stud no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. Nail the junction box appropriate to accommodate the wires and switches according to the junction box calculation by NEC, National Electrical Code. Install the cable support, cable stacker. Insert wires into the junction box. Mark the cables if necessary. Light outlet junction box above the table. Cable inserted into the junction box of a light fixture installed above the table. Cable secured to a stud no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. Switch junction box near the sink. The cables are inserted into the switch junction box near the sink. Cable to the light outlet above the sink. Cable from the 2-gang switch junction box near the door. Cable secured to a stud no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. Light outlet junction box above the sink. Cable inserted into the junction box of a light fixture installed above the sink. Cable secured to a stud no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. Select and open the junction box knockout. Install any approved cable connector. Insert the cable into the cable connector. Attach the cable to the stud within 12 inches from the cable entry to the junction box. Recessed light outlet housing. Installed cables for recessed light fixture. Cable from the switch. Cable to another recessed light fixture. Cables secured to a beam no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the recessed light fixture junction box. Install the cable from the switch and cable to other recessed housing if more than one light fixture will be installed. Secure cables to the beam within 12 inches from the housing. Recessed light outlet housings. Installed cables for recessed light fixture. Cable from the recessed light fixture. Cable to another recessed light fixture. Cables secured to a beam no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the recessed light fixture junction box. Recessed light outlet housing. Installed cable for recessed light fixture. Cable from the recessed light fixture. Cable secured to a beam no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the recessed light fixture junction box. Switch junction box near the second entrance to the kitchen. 2 cables inserted into the junction box. Cable to the recessed light outlet. 14. 3 cable from the 2 gang switch junction box at the other entrance to the kitchen. Cables secured to a beam no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. All cables are already installed. If necessary and where required, cables must be protected with nail plates. Cable splicing. The cables installed in the kitchen are ready to be spliced, connected. Before the rough-in inspection, the cables in the junction boxes must be spliced. Splicing is the joining of 2 or more separate wires, conductors. The grounding conductors must always be connected to each other to form one equipotential bonding. The wire nuts will be used as splicing connectors. All types of wire nuts are listed for a specific number of wires that can be spliced together with a specific type of wire nut. Any wire nut can be used to splice, connect, the ground wires, but a special green wire nut, ground connector, will be used in this example. The green wire nut has a hole on one end that is used to pull one of the bare wires through it, which will become a pigtail on the ground wires to the equipment ground terminals. When splicing the wire, it is enough to make 3 to 5 twists of the wire when the wire nut is tightly screwed on the wire. Do not twist the wire too much up to the cable sheath, as this may damage the insulation of other wires. Separate the ground wires, bare, from the others and push the ground wires towards the back of the junction box. Twist the ground wires. Hold them in your fist. This gives you a minimum length of 6 inches from the box entrance, required, and cut the shorter wire at the front of your fist. Pull the long wire through the green wire nut hole and twist it clockwise. Neatly fold and push the spliced ground wires with the connector into the junction box, leaving the pigtail outside the junction box. When using a standard wire nut to connect the ground wires, add a pigtail that is needed to connect the ground wire to the electrical device. Separate the ground wires, bare, from the others and push the ground wires towards the back of the junction box. Hold the ground wires in your fist. This gives you a minimum length of 6 inches from the box entrance required, and cut them at the front of your fist. Take a piece of bare ground wire to make a pigtail and using pliers twist the wires together clockwise. Use a wire nut to secure the connection. Neatly fold and push the spliced ground wires with the connector into the junction box, leaving the wire nut pigtail outside the junction box. A medium-sized wire nut will be used for all other connections. This wire nut can also be used to connect ground wires. A better connection is obtained by twisting the wire with pliers before screwing the wire nut onto the twisted wires. Do not twist the insulated wires too tightly to avoid damaging the insulation. Separate the neutral, white, wires from the black ones. Fold and push the wires towards the back of the junction box. Hold them. Grab them and cut them in front of your fist. Take a piece of white wire to make the pigtail. Strip the end of that wire and also strip the ends of the white wires coming out of the junction box about 1/2 inch. Using pliers and a wire nut, connect the pigtail and other white wires together. Fold the spliced white wires with the connector and neatly push them into the junction box, leaving the pigtail outside the box. The sheath, jacket, of the cable should protrude beyond the entrance to the enclosure, electrical junction box, not less than 1/4 inch. Do not overfill junction boxes with cable with a cable sheath. The cable sheath not removed takes up space in the junction box that may be needed for splicing and device installation. To avoid electric shock and tripping of the circuit breaker, make sure that the insulation of the wires, conductors, is not damaged. Cut with a knife when removing the insulation from the wires. Cable conductors colors: bare copper, G, ground wire, conductor. Ground wire may be green or green with yellow stripes in other cables. White, N, neutral wire, conductor. Black, H, hot, power, wire, conductor. Red, H, hot, power, wire, conductor. Splicing of the receptacle junction box with a cable from the power source, can be other receptacle outlet, and a cable to power another outlet, 2 cables. Splicing, connection sketch. Receptacle junction box with 2 cables inserted into it. Cable from the power source. Cable to another receptacle outlet junction box. Spliced, connected, wires. Strip the cable sheath. Cut the ground wires, bare, to no shorter than 6 inches. Take the same size ground wire for the pigtail and use a wire nut to splice them together. Insert the spliced wires with wire nut into the junction box. Trim all wires to the required length, no shorter than 6 inches, and insert them into the junction box. Splicing of the receptacle junction box with a cable from the power source, or other receptacle outlet, 1 cable. Splicing, connection sketch. Receptacle junction box with 1 cable inserted into it. Cable from the power source. Spliced, connected, wires. Remove the cable sheath, cut all wires to the required length, no shorter than 6 inches, and insert the wires into the junction box. Splicing of 2-gang switch junction box for 3-way and single pole switch with a cable from the power source, a cable to power another switch, a cable, 14.3, to a light outlet and a cable to a second switch to provide 3-way control of the second light outlet, 4 cables. Splicing, connection sketch. Cable to the light outlet above the table. 14.3 cable to the switch junction box at second entrance to kitchen. Cable from the panel board. Cable to the switch near the sink. Cable secured to a stud no more than 12 inches from the cable entry into the junction box. Spliced, connected, wires. Cable to the light outlet controlled by a single pole switch. Cable to another electrical outlet. Cable from the panel board or other power source. 14.3 cable to another 3-way switch, or 4-way if there are more than 2 switches. Remove the cable sheath. Group all ground wires, bare, and splice them using the wire nut. Insert the connection into the junction box, leaving the pigtail wire outside the junction box. Group the neutral, white, wires from all cables, splice them together with a wire nut, and insert the connection into the junction box. Group the hot, black, wires from the cable from the power source and from the cable to the other electrical outlet. Connect them together by adding 2 black pigtail wires with the same wire diameter and insert this connection into the junction box. Group one of the pigtail wires and the traveler wires, black and red, from the 14.3 cable to the another 3-way switch junction box. Group the other pigtail wire and the hot, black, wire from the cable to the light outlet controlled by single pole switch. Trim all wires to no shorter than 6 inches from the bottom of the junction box. Insert grouped wires into the junction box. Coil the ground wire and insert it into the junction box. Coiled ground wire. Wires for connection to a single pole switch. Wires for connection to a three-way switch. Splicing of light outlet junction box above the table with a cable from the switch, one cable. Splicing, connection sketch. Cable from the switch. Remove the cable sheath. Cut the wires to the desired length, not less than 6 inches. Insert the wires into the junction box. Temporarily cover the wires in the junction box with the supplied cover. Spliced, connected, wires. Splicing of single pole switch junction box with cable from the power source and cable to the light outlet, 2 cables. Splicing, connection sketch. Cable to the light outlet. Cable from the power source. Spliced, connected, wires. Strip cables jacket. Cables sheath, jacket, shall extend beyond enclosure, electrical box, entry not less than 1/4 inch. Separate ground, bare, wires from others and push ground wires towards the back of the box. Twist ground wires, hold by fist, it gives you 6 inches minimum length of wires from box entry, required. Keep longest wire as pigtail and cut shorter wires by fist. Thread long wire through green wire nut hole and twist it clockwise. Fold and push spliced ground wires with connector neatly into the box, leaving pigtail from wire nut outside the box. Push all wires into the box, hold them in place. Catch all wires and cut it in the front of the fist. Strip ends of neutral, white wires about 1/2 inch. Splice neutral, white wires, twisting it by pliers and wire nut clockwise. Fold neutral, white wires and push neatly into the box. Fold remaining wires and push neatly into the box. Splicing of light outlet junction box above the sink with a cable from the switch, 1 cable. Splicing, connection sketch. Cable from the switch. Spliced, connected, wires. Remove the cable sheath. Wrap the ground wire, bare, around the grounding screw and tighten the screw. Trim the wires, no shorter than 6 inches from the bottom of the junction box, required, and insert them into the junction box. Splicing of three-way switch junction box with a cable. 14. 3. Enabling control of the light outlet from the second switch box and a cable to the recessed light outlet housing junction box. 2 cables. Splicing connection sketch. Cable to the recessed light outlet. Cable to provide three-way control from other location. 14. 3. Spliced connected wires. Strip cables jacket. Cables sheath, jacket, shall extend beyond enclosure, electrical box, entry not less than 1/4 inch. Separate ground, bare, wires from others and push ground wires towards the back of the box. Twist ground wires, hold by fist, it gives you 6 inches minimum length of wires from box entry, required. Keep longer wire as pigtail and cut shorter wire by fist. Tread long wire through green wire nut hole and twist it clockwise. Fold and push spliced ground wires with connector neatly into the box, leaving pigtail from wire nut outside the box. Separate neutral, white, wires from other wires. Fold and push towards back of the box, hold it in place, catch and cut it in front of the fist. Strip ends of white wires about 1/2 inch. Splice white wires, twisting it by pliers and wire nut clockwise. Fold spliced white wires and push neatly into the box. Fold and push remaining wires towards back of the box, catch it and cut by front of the fist. Fold wires and push neatly into the box. Splicing of recessed light fixture with a cable from a switch or other light fixture and a cable to the next light fixture. 2 cables. Splicing connection sketch. Cable from the switch or recessed light. Cable to another recessed light fixture. Wires of the light fixture housing junction box. Bare or green, ground wire. White, neutral wire. Black, hot wire. Spliced, connected, wires. Stripped cables jacket about 6 inches and strip ends of wires about 1/2 inch. Open the junction box and junction box rectangular knockouts for NM cables. Insert cables into open knockouts. Connect ground, bare wires from the cables to quick connector of green, ground wire from light fixture. Connect neutral, white wires from the cables to quick connector of the white wire, neutral, from light fixture. Connect hot, black wires from the cables to quick connector of the black, hot wire from the light fixture. Close junction box cover. Slide fixture to desired location and tight the screw to lock position of the housing. Splicing of recessed light fixture with a cable from a switch or other light fixture, 1 cable. Splicing, connection sketch. Cable from the switch or recessed light. Spliced, connected, wires. Strip about 6 inches of the cable sheath and strip the ends of the wires about 1/2 inch. Open the junction box of the light fixture housing and open the cable knockout in this junction box. Insert the cable into the cable knockout and connect the light fixture as follows. Ground, bare, wire from the cable to the ground, green, wire connector of the light fixture. Hot, black, wire from the cable to the hot, black, wire connector of the light fixture. Neutral, white, wire from the cable to the neutral, white wire connector of the light fixture. Insert the connected wires into the light fixture junction box and close the junction box cover. If you don't know the exact location of the recessed light, you can leave the cable behind the drywall between the joists, and the remodel type recessed light, with can or canless, will be installed after the ceiling is finished. Cable for a remodel type recessed light left behind the ceiling. Kitchen wiring junction boxes spliced and ready for rough-in inspection. Installation of electrical devices. After inspection and approval by the competent authority, the final electrical installation can be carried out. All required AFCI and GFCI protection for electrical equipment in the kitchen will be made in the panel board. Receptacle installation. Duplex receptacle decora and standard style front view. All receptacles installed in residential applications must be of the tamper-resistant type. Rear view of the duplex receptacle. Receptacle yoke, Frame. Push-in connection terminals. The push-in connection is not recommended for receptacles, especially those with high current consumption, due to poor connection, which may cause damage to the device, overheating, burning. Receptacle mounting screws. Grounding screw, green. Neutral screws, silver. Hot screws, gold. A properly spliced receptacle outlet should have 3 or 5 leads, wires, for connection to a receptacle device. Do not connect more than 2 wires to the back of the receptacle. Instead, splice the wires properly before connecting to the receptacle. When attaching the receptacle to the junction box, pay attention to the gap between the top of the junction box and the surface of the installed drywall. The gap between the drywall surface and the top of the installed box housing must not be greater than 1/4 inch. Box extender with attachment screws. If the gap between the drywall surface and the top of the installed box housing is greater than 1/4 inch, a box extension must be installed. The gap between the non-combustible surface around the boxes should not be greater than 1/8 inch. If the gap is greater than 1/8 inch, the drywall must be repaired. The receptacle yoke, frame, must rest on the mounted drywall so that the receptacle can be firmly attached to the junction box. If receptacle yoke, frame, cannot adhere firmly to the drywall face, too large gap between the drywall and the junction box, a spacer must be used between the receptacle yoke and the junction box to properly secure the receptacle. Outlet spacer. Outlet spacer made of wire nut. The spacer is installed between the receptacle yoke and the junction box so that the bottom of the yoke matches the face height of the drywall. The spacer is installed between the receptacle yoke and the junction box so that the bottom of the yoke matches the face height of the drywall. Install a box extension if needed. The gap between the drywall surface and the top of the installed box casing is greater than 1/4 inch. Install the duplex receptacle. Installation of a duplex receptacle in junction boxes with 5 wires to be connected to the receptacle after splicing. 5 wires in junction box to connect to the receptacle. Splicing, connection sketch. Sketch of a connected receptacle. 5 wires in a junction box to connect to the receptacle. Make a loop at the end of each wire to connect it to the receptacle. Ground wire, bare. Neutral wires, white. Hot wires, black. Connect the ground wire, bare, from the junction box to the ground screw, green, of the receptacle. Connect the neutral wires, white, from the junction box to the neutral screws, silver, of the receptacle. Connect the hot wires, black, from the junction box to the hot screws, gold, of the receptacle. Strip the ends of the wires and make loops in the ends of the wire to connect the wire to the receptacle. Remove the screws securing the receptacle. Insert the junction box extender into the junction box and connect the receptacle as follows. Ground, bare, wire from the junction box to the ground screw, green, of the receptacle. Neutral, white, wires from the junction box to the neutral screws, silver, of the receptacle. Hot, black, wires from the junction box to the hot screws, gold, of the receptacle. Screw the receptacle and install the receptacle wall plate. If the tile is cut too much and does not support the receptacle yoke, the receptacle should be supported in another way. Example of a receptacle support for a poorly cut tile. Take a wire nut and cut it to the length between the junction box and the tile surface. Installation of a duplex receptacle in junction boxes with 3 wires to be connected to the receptacle after splicing. 3 wires in junction box to connect to the receptacle. Splicing, connection sketch. Sketch of a connected receptacle. 3 wires in a junction box to connect to the receptacle. Make a loop at the end of each wire to connect it to the receptacle. Ground wire, bare. Neutral wires, white. Hot wires, black. Connect the ground wire, bare, from the junction box to the ground screw, green, of the receptacle. Connect the neutral wire, white, from the junction box to the neutral screw, silver, of the receptacle. Connect the hot wire, black, from the junction box to the hot screw, gold, of the receptacle. Strip the ends of the wires and make loops in the ends of the wire to connect the wire to the receptacle. Remove the screws securing the receptacle. Connect the receptacle as follow. Ground wire, bare, from the junction box to the ground screw, green, of the receptacle. Neutral wire, white, from the junction box to the neutral screw, silver, of the receptacle. Hot wire, black, from the junction box to the hot screw, gold, of the receptacle. Insert the junction box extender into the junction box. Screw the receptacle and install the receptacle wall plate. If there is a gap between the receptacle wall plate and the tile wall, the screws in the receptacle wall plate are too long and need to be cut. There must be enough space behind the receptacle yoke for the longer receptacle wall plate screws. There is no slot in the wall tile for the receptacle wall plate screws. If necessary, shorten the receptacle wall plate screws. Single pole switch installation. Single pole switch decora and standard style front view. Rear view of the single pole switch. Switch yoke, frame. Switch mounting screws. Push-in connection terminals. Grounding screw, green. Hot screws, gold. A single pole switch outlet have 3 leads, wires, for connection to a switching device. When attaching the switch to the junction box, pay attention to the gap between the top of the junction box and the surface of the installed drywall. Same rules and restrictions apply as for a receptacle. Install a single pole switch. Installation of a single pole switch in junction box spliced for one single pole switch. Also a 1 gang of the 2 gang junction box is spliced for the single pole switch connection. Wires in the junction box to connect to the single pole switch. Splicing, connection sketch. Sketch of a connected single pole switch. Wiring in junction box for connection to single pole switch. Ground wire. Hot wire from the power source. Hot wire to the light fixture. Connect the ground wire, bare, from the junction box to the ground screw, green, of the switch. Connect the hot wires, black, from the junction box to the hot screws, gold, of the switch in any order. Pull the spliced wires out of the junction box. Strip the ends of the wires about 1/2 inch and make a loop on the ground wire. If required by the NEC code, install a box extender. Connect the ground, bare, wire to the ground, green, screw. Connect the 2 hot, black, wires to either of the 2 hot, gold, screws. Fold the wires. Push them neatly into the junction box and attach the switch to the junction box. Level the switch. Attach the switch wall plate. Three-way switch installation. Three-way switch decora and standard style front view. Rear view of the three-way switch. Switch yoke, frame. Switch mounting screws. Push-in connection terminals. Grounding screw, green. Traveler wire screws, gold. Hot common wire screw, black. Three-way switch outlet have 4 leads, wires, for connection to a switching device. When attaching the switch to the junction box, Pay attention to the gap between the top of the junction box and the surface of the installed drywall. Same rules and restrictions apply as for a receptacle. Install a three-way switch. Installation of a three-way switch in junction box spliced for one three-way switch. Also, a 1-gang of the 2-gang junction box is spliced for the one three-way switch connection. Wires in the junction box to connect to the three-way switch. Splicing, connection sketch. Sketch of a connected three-way switch. Wiring in junction box for connection to three-way switch. Ground wire. Hot wire to the recessed light fixture. Hot wires, travelers. Connect the ground wire, bare, from the junction box to the ground screw, green, of the switch. Connect one of the traveler wires, from 14(3) cable, to one of the traveler wire screws, gold, of the switch. Connect the second traveler wire, from 14(3) cable, to the other traveler wire screw, gold, of the switch. Connect the hot, black, wire from the cable to the light fixture to the hot screw, black, of the switch. Strip the ends of the wires about 1/2 inch, make a loop at the end of ground wire, and connect the switch as follows. Ground, bare, wire from the junction box to the ground terminal, green screw, of the switch. One of the traveler wires, black, or red, from the 14(3) cable to the one of the traveler wire terminals of the switch, gold screws. Hot, black, wire from the cable to the recessed light outlet to the hot common terminal, black screw, of the switch. Remaining traveler wire, red, to the other traveler wire terminal, gold screw, of the switch. Secure the switch to the junction box and install the wall plate. Installation of a three-way and single pole switch in a junction box spliced for a three-way and single pole switch. Wires in the junction box to connect to the three-way and single pole switch. Splicing, connection sketch. Sketch of connected three-way and single pole switch. Wiring in junction box for connection to single pole and three-way switch. Ground wire to connect to both switches. Wires for connecting a single pole switch. Hot wire to the recessed light fixture. Hot pigtail wire from the power source. Connect the ground wire, bare, from the junction box to the ground screw, green, of the switch. Connect the hot pigtail wire from the power source to one of the hot terminals, gold screws, of the single pole switch. Connect the hot wire to the light fixture to other hot terminal, gold screw, of the single pole switch. Wires for connecting a three-way switch. Hot pigtail wire from the power source. Traveler wires, from 14(3) cable. Connect the ground wire, bare, from the junction box to the ground screw, green, of the switch. Connect the hot pigtail wire from the power source to the hot common terminal, black screw, of the three-way switch. Connect one of the traveler wires, from 14(3) cable, to one of the traveler wire terminals, gold screws, of the switch. Connect the remaining traveler wire, from 14(3) cable, to the other traveler wire terminals, gold screws, of the switch. Pull the wires out of the junction box and strip the ends of the wires about 1/2 inch. Ground wire. Hot wire to the light fixture. Hot pigtail wire from the power source. Traveler wire from 14(3) cable, black. Traveler wire from 14(3) cable, red. Hot pigtail wire from the power source. Single pole switch, front view. Single pole switch, rear view. Ground terminal, green screw. Hot terminals, gold screws. Three-way switch, front view. Three-way switch, rear view. Ground terminal, green screw. Hot common terminal, black screw. Traveler wires terminals, gold screws. Connect the single pole switch as follows. Ground wire, bare, to the ground terminal, green screw, of the switch. Hot wire, black, to the light fixture and hot pigtail wire, black, from the power source to the hot terminals, gold screws, of the switch in any order. Secure the switch to the junction box. Make a loop at the end of the ground wire and connect the three-way switch as follows. Ground wire, bare, to the ground terminal, green screw, of the switch. Hot pigtail wire, black, from the power source to the hot common terminal, black screw, of the switch. One of the traveler wires, red, can also be black, from the 14(3) cable to one of the traveler wire terminals of the switch. The other traveler wire, black, or red if black is already connected, to the second traveler wire terminal of the switch. Secure the switch to the junction box. Level the switches and install the switch wall plate. Installation of a light fixture above the table. To the junction box located above the table can be installed chandelier, pendant light fixture, surface mount light fixture, or paddle fan. Light fixture wires: bare or green ground wire, white or grooved ribbed neutral wire, black or smooth hot wire. Splicing connection sketch. Sketch of connected light fixture. Wires in the junction box to connect to the light fixture. Bare ground wire, white neutral wire, black hot wire. Connect the ground, bare or green, wire from the light fixture to the ground, bare, wire from the junction box. Connect the neutral, white or grooved, ribbed, wire from the light fixture to the neutral, white wire from the junction box. Connect the hot, black or smooth, wire from the light fixture to the hot, black wire from the junction box. Install the light fixture mounting bracket to the junction box. Wrap the ground wire, bare, from the junction box around the mounting bracket ground screw and tighten the screw. Use wire nuts to connect the light fixture as follows. Ground wire, bare, from the light outlet junction box to ground wire, bare, from the light fixture. Neutral wire, white, from the light outlet junction box to neutral wire, white, from the light fixture. Hot wire, black, from the light outlet junction box to hot wire, black, from the light fixture. Using decorative screw nuts, install the light fixture canopy to the adjustable mounting screws of the light fixture mounting bracket. Chandelier wires. Ground wire, bare. Neutral wire, grooved, ribbed. Hot wire, smooth, originally marked as L line. Trim the wires to desired length. Strip the ends of wires about 1/2 inch and use the wire nuts to connect the wires as follows. Ground wire, bare, from the chandelier to the ground wire, bare, from the junction box. Neutral wire, grooved, ribbed, from the chandelier to the neutral wire, white, from the junction box. Hot wire, smooth or marked, L, from the chandelier to the hot wire, black, from the junction box. Connected wires. It is good practice to leave the chandelier wires slightly longer in case it needs to be lowered. Insert connected wires into the junction box. Wires inserted into the junction box. If you connect the ground wire from the chandelier to the ground wire from the box and attach the mounting bracket directly to the metal junction box with 2 screws. It is not necessary to connect the bracket ground screw to the ground wire. The ground wire can be connected to the ground screw of the bracket, but this is not necessary. Slide the canopy up to the ceiling and tighten the collar nut. Installation of a light fixture above the sink. To the junction box located above the sink can be installed surface mount light fixture or pendant light fixture. Surface mount light fixture wires: bare, ground wire; white, neutral wire; black, hot wire. Wires in the junction box to connect to the light fixture. Splicing, connection sketch. Sketch of a connected light fixture. Wiring in junction box for connection to the light fixture. Bare, ground wire; white, neutral wire; black, hot wire. Connect the ground, bare, wire from the light fixture to the ground, bare, wire from the junction box. Connect the neutral, white, wire from the light fixture to the neutral, white wire from the junction box. Connect the hot, black, wire from the light fixture to the hot, black, wire from the junction box. Pre-install the light fixture mounting screws in the junction box, maintaining a gap between the junction box and the screw head. Use wire nuts to connect the light fixture as follows. Ground wire, bare, from the light fixture to ground wire, bare, from the junction box. Neutral wire, white, from the light fixture to neutral wire, white, from the junction box. Hot wire, black, from the light fixture to hot wire, black, from the junction box. Insert all connected wires into the junction box and, aligning the pre-installed screws in the junction box with the mounting holes in the light fixture housing. Install the light fixture into the junction box by inserting the screws into the holes and rotating the light fixture. Tighten the screws. Set the light color switch to your desired light color. Align the slots in the light fixture shade with the mounting points, pins, on the light fixture housing and rotate the lampshade clockwise until it locks into place. Installation of recessed light trims. Housing of the recessed light fixture after installing the plasterboard. Recessed light housing trim front view. Recessed light housing trim rear view. Install the recessed lighting fixture trim into the housing. Installed recessed lighting fixture trim.
Attach light trim to the housing by screwing on light trim base into housing light bulb socket. Compress the springs and insert into the ears on the inside of the recessed housing can. Push trim into the housing until the trim is flush with the ceiling surface.
Installation of a remodel recessed light after the wall is finished and the cable left behind the drywall. After finishing the ceiling, you can install recessed light remodel housing, arcanless recessed light, cable left behind the drywall for recessed light. Cut a hole in the ceiling and install a remodel recessed light fixture. Recessed light installed.
Mark light location, cable already installed during rough-in wiring before sheetrock installation. Drill hole for the light fixture using 3 1/4 inch drill cutter, drilling counterclockwise, otherwise sheetrock damage possible. Hole can be also cut by sheetrock saw. Template may not be supplied. Pull cables, already installed, from the ceiling. Trim cables if needed. Insert cable into approved cable connector. Cables must be at least 6 inches long. Strip the cable's jacket. If needed, disconnect recessed light lamp from the junction box. Open junction box cover and open the junction box knockout. Insert connector with the cables into the junction box opening. Insert push-in wire connector, supplied with the light, on each wire from the recessed light lamp. Trim wires if needed and strip ends of conductors around 1/2 inch. Insert ground, bare cable conductors into push-in wire connector of the fixture, ground green wire, and tuck the wires inside the junction box. Insert neutral, white cable conductors into push-in wire connector of the fixture, neutral white wire, and tuck wires inside the junction box. Insert hot, black cable conductors into push-in wire connector of the fixture, hot black wire, and tuck wires inside the junction box. Close junction box cover and select desired lamp color temperature on toggle switch. Insert junction box into the ceiling opening. Reconnect recessed light lamp from the junction box if it was disconnected. Rest the one torsion spring on the sheetrock in the ceiling opening, squeeze the other torsion spring and insert fixture into the ceiling. To remove the installed fixture, gently pull the fixture little bit down to reach the torsion spring. Squeeze the spring and take out the fixture.
Installation of a receptacle for dishwasher. The cable for the dishwasher receptacle is left in the expected receptacle location. When installing the drywall and the kitchen cabinets, the cable is pulled through them and left in the place where the dishwasher receptacle will be installed. The cable to the dishwasher receptacle can also be run through the back wall of the cabinet. In this picture, the second cable installed will be for the waste disposer receptacle. In this wiring example, a single 20 amps receptacle will be installed in a surface mount junction box, and this receptacle and its circuit will be AFCI and GFCI protected in the panel board as required. Optionally, the receptacle can also be mounted as a recessed type in the wall, when the cable comes out from the back wall of the sink cabinet. To install a surface-mounted single receptacle for dishwasher, you will need 4 inches square metal junction box, raised junction box cover for a single receptacle, 20 amps 125 volts single receptacle, button-type push-in cable connector or similar, ground screw, junction box attachment screws, single receptacle details, front view, yoke, attachment screws, holes in the receptacle yoke for installation, the receptacle wall plate, support ears that can be cut off for certain installations, single receptacle, rear view, ground connection terminal, green screw, neutral connection terminal, silver screw, hot connection terminal, gold screw, 4 inches square metal junction box details. The capacity of a junction box depends on its size. Cable knockouts 16 total. Holes for screws to secure the junction box to flat surfaces. Raised ground screw hole. Screws for attaching the junction box cover. Raised junction box cover for single receptacle. Holes for screws securing the cover to the junction box. Screws to attach single receptacle to the raised cover. 12. 2 nm cable wires. Bare, ground wire. White, neutral wire. Black, hot wire. Open the junction box knockout, insert the approved cable connector and insert the cable into the cable connector. Secure the junction box to the surface of the sink base cabinet. Install the ground screw. Remove the cable sheath. Wrap the ground, bare wire around the ground screw and tighten the screw. Trim the wires no shorter than 6 inches and strip the ends of the wires about 1/2 inch. Remove the mounting screws from the receptacle and cut off the ears holding the receptacle. Connect the receptacle as follows. Ground, bare wire from the junction box to the ground terminal, green screw, of the receptacle. Neutral, white wire from the junction box to the neutral terminal, silver screw, of the receptacle. Hot, black wire from the junction box to the hot terminal, gold screw, of the receptacle. Remove the cover mounting screws from the junction box. Attach the receptacle to the raised cover. Install the raised junction box cover with the receptacle to the junction box. Describe the receptacle. If the dishwasher is not equipped with a power cord, install an appropriately sized power cord to the dishwasher. Check the dishwasher label for the power rating, usually around 10 amps. Power cord meeting the requirements of a dishwasher power cord after length adjustment, 14.3 power cord, rated 15 amps, 1875 watts. You will also need a clamp connector or other approved cord installation connector. To install the dishwasher power cord, remove the kick plate. Open the dishwasher junction box cover. Install the clamp connector into the open junction box knockout. Cut the power cord to the desired length, 3 to 6.5 feet. Strip the power cord to a length of not less than 6 inches and strip the ends of the wires to a length of approximately 1/2 inch. Insert the power cord into the cord connector and tighten the connector screws. Connect the wires as follows. Ground wire, green, from the dishwasher to ground wire, green, from the power cord. Neutral wire, white, from the dishwasher to neutral wire, white, from the power cord. Hot wire, black, from the dishwasher to hot wire, black, from the power cord. Insert all connected wires into the junction box. Reinstall the junction box cover. Reinstall the dishwasher kickplate. Installation of a receptacle for microhood. The cable for the microhood receptacle is left in the expected receptacle location. When installing drywall and kitchen cabinets, the cable is pulled through them and left in the place where the microhood receptacle will be installed, usually inside the cabinet above the microhood. The cable to the microhood receptacle is routed through the back wall of the cabinet. In this wiring example, a single 20 amps receptacle will be installed in a surface mount junction box, and this receptacle and its circuit will be AFCI protected in the panel board as required. The microhood receptacle is installed in the same way as the dishwasher receptacle described above, except that the cable should come out from the back wall of the kitchen cabinet. Optionally, the receptacle can also be mounted as a recessed type in the wall. Powering the kitchen. All kitchen wiring will be powered directly from the panel board. To power this kitchen, there must be 5 breaker slots available in the panel board, otherwise a new subpanel must be added. The 2020 NEC requires AFCI protection for all new 120 volts kitchen circuits. The kitchen receptacles serving the countertops and the dishwasher also require GFCI protection, which will be provided in the panel board. Make sure you can work on the panel board safely. De-energize the panel board. To power the kitchen, insert the circuit cables into the panel board through the appropriate cable connector. Remove the cable sheath. A 15 amps 120 volts or 20 amps 120 volts GFCI, AFCI or AFCI, GFCI circuit breaker looks the same, but the purpose of protecting the electrical circuit is different. Always read the breaker information regarding breaker type and amperage found on the breaker label. GFCI, AFCI or AFCI, GFCI circuit breaker with neutral wire pigtail. Breaker handle. Test button. Neutral wire connection terminal. Hot wire connection terminal. Pigtail wire. Insert the AFCI-GFCI circuit breaker with pigtail into the breaker slot in the panel board and connect as follows. Circuit breaker pigtail wire to neutral bar, in subpanels, or neutral ground bar in main electrical panel. Ground wire, bare, from the cable to neutral bar, in subpanels, or neutral ground bar in main electrical panel. Neutral wire, white, from the cable to the neutral terminal of the circuit breaker. Hot wire, black, from the cable to the hot terminal of the circuit breaker. The next video is an example of installing a similar circuit breaker, AFCI 15 amps with a neutral wire pigtail. Turn off the main breaker or the feeder breaker for the subpanel. Remove the panel cover. Open the selected knockout in the panel board enclosure. Insert the cable connector into the open knockout. Insert the cable into the connector and fasten the cable, usually a staple, 12 inches from the panel board. strip the cable jacket. Route the ground wire, bare copper conductor, neatly inside the load center panel board and connect it to the neutral ground bar in the panel. Install the AFCI circuit breaker. Connect, terminate, the pigtail wire from the circuit breaker to the neutral ground bus. Route the neutral, white, wire, conductor, inside the panel board, trim it, strip the end of the wire about 1/2 inch and connect it to the neutral terminal screw of the circuit breaker. Route the hot, black, wire, conductor, inside the panel board, trim it, strip the end of the wire about 1/2 inch and connect it to the hot terminal screw of the circuit breaker. Power up the panel and test the circuit breaker with the connected circuit for proper operation. Remove the knockout and panel board cover for the installed circuit breaker. Reinstall the panel board cover. Describe the installed circuit breaker. Attach the test instruction, and the test reminder label, supplied with the AFCI switch, in a visible position on the enclosure. Plug on, PON, neutral circuit breaker type AFCI or AFCI-GFCI. Plug on neutral AFCI circuit breaker connection plug to neutral bar. To use a plug on neutral circuit breaker, the load center must have a neutral bus that accepts these breakers. The neutral spring clip of the circuit breaker is inserted onto the neutral bus bar. Connect the wires from the cable to the plug-on type circuit breaker in the same manner as to the AFCI-GFCI breaker with pigtail wire. Install a 15 amps AFCI circuit breaker for the kitchen lighting circuit. Install a 20 amps AFCI circuit breaker for the microwave circuit and the refrigerator circuit and general outlets as required. Install a 20 amps AFCI-GFCI circuit breaker for the kitchen countertop branch circuits and the dishwasher circuit. In branch circuits where only AFCI protection is required, an AFCI-GFCI breaker may be installed to provide greater protection without being inconsistent with the 2020 NEC requirements.